Accusation, but the fact is that General Flynn continued in that position and was in the presidential daily briefings, was part of the leader calls as recently as yesterday, was there for the Prime Minister's visit from Canada yesterday. And as time wore on, obviously the situation had become unsustainable.
Kellyanne,
and General Flynn...
That makes no sense.
All right, joining us now with reaction from the White House, counsel to the President, Kellyanne Conway. You know, just one observation, and we've been friends for over 2 decades. I've seen you in media appearances, and just my own thoughts that if somebody was a liberal and a woman and were treated in certain circumstances the way you've been treated, I think it would be news. Do you feel in any way the media has been extremely hostile to you?
I don't like to think that way. I am counselor to the president. I get tough questions. Any of us who represent him do. He certainly does. And tough is fine, but they should be fair. And actually just saying that I made no sense or it made no sense is inaccurate and unfair in this instance, because as our press secretary, Sean Spicer, said later in the daily briefing today, Sean, our White House counsel reviewed that information and concluded that this was not a legal matter. And ultimately, it was a matter of trust. It was an erosion of trust matter. It was not a legal matter that warranted further action at that moment. And so that's all I was trying to convey. And I was answering a couple of different questions, but I do find sometimes that there are conclusions in search of evidence. And you know, if we don't answer the question the way they want it answered, they ask it again, accuse us of not being credible or not answering a question. Look, sometimes you're asking a question that's not particularly relevant, but we're patiently trying to answer it. And often enough, we are answering the question, but maybe not just the way that you wanted it answered. But I'm not a big fan of talking about sexism and exclusion and all of that.
No,
I'm here to do a job.
Identity politics.
But I also think things started to shift too when I was a speaker at the March for Life. I saw a real change in tone and attitude among many people that, you know, I would go and speak at the March for Life, and of course Vice President Pence did as well. And he made history doing that. But that's all right. Sean, you know what? I just want the American people to see all the action this president is taking on their behalf. I mean, just today he had a listening session, a parent-teacher conference with parents and educators from private schools, public, charter, home schools. We have a new secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. We have Linda McMahon over at SBA. She was just sworn in tonight. Steve Mnuchin last night at Treasury. The president just today, he rescinded some of these awful regulations in a really remarkable,
I do think there's some truth
event.
Here.
So,
you know, one of the things, there's been a remarkable speed. I call it the speed of Trump, actually. He's moving very quickly, and he's made a lot of accomplishments. But the media, as I said in my opening monologue tonight, they're more focused on attacking you and attacking Ivanka and Jared and Bannon and Miller and Gorka and even the 10-year-old son of the president. I want to go specifically to these leaks, though, because Time Magazine had it was a column today by Sam Frizzell. You know, this is not the first time leaks are coming from the intelligence community. Our friend Kenneth Timmerman actually wrote a piece. He wrote a book back some years ago about the Shadow Warriors. And Eli Lake, by the way, he wrote a piece today about the intelligence leaks. So my question to you is, where are these leaks coming from? Are they against the law? Is this, do you think, coming from people that are loyal to the former administration? And when does it stop because of the danger that's associated with these leaks? And is there going to be an investigation?
Well, the president made that very clear, I think, in a tweet and in other comments. The press secretary made it clear today. We're very concerned about leaks, particularly as goes intelligence and security information. And it's extremely concerning. It's not for me to say where they're coming from or whether there'll be an investigation, but it's obviously taken very seriously by our commander-in-chief and our president, because he has said as much as recently as this week. And he's right, Sean. We saw this before. We're seeing it again this week. The leaks within the intelligence and security, leaks about intelligence and security, I should say, it should concern everyone. And if people are running to the media to leak and not providing that information to the proper authorities, that should concern all of us. This is not a partisan issue.
Kellyanne, that's
it's dangerous stuff. It's not a partisan issue. And I appreciate your opening questions to me as well, because all I see constantly is, whether it's any Trump administration official, it's so-and-so got grilled, so-and-so struggled, so-and-so contentious interview, see the tense exchange below. It's like, I guess that's great clickbait, but folks, let's focus on the real issues at hand, which is what the president is putting out there, these leaks.
Well, let me ask you one last question, because I know that you made an off-the-cuff comment. It was on Fox and Friends, and you talked about, and I do believe, I have friends inside of Nordstrom that told me that they believe it is political, what happened with Ivanka's line. And you said, okay, go buy Ivanka. And they're claiming that you violated the standards of conduct. I mean, is this really how trivial things are going to get? And what's your reaction to it?
I don't have a comment on the particular letter that's been sent or any type of investigation. And I've been very straightforward about that particular incident. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, Kellyanne, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much. This is a big signing, very important signing. And this is HJ Resolution 41, disapproving the Securities and Exchange Commission's rule on disclosure of payments by resource extraction issuers. It's a big deal. And I want to thank Speaker Paul Ryan for being here. He's been tremendous. Jeb Henseling, very, very important and really worked hard. Representative Bill Heisinger, and all of the friends. Peter, all of my friends are up here, and we really appreciate it. This is one of many that we've signed, and we have many more left. And we're bringing back jobs big league. We're bringing them back at the plant level. We're bringing them back at the mine level. The energy jobs are coming back, and it's you see what's going on with the stock market. They know that we know what we're doing, so it's going up at record clips. So I think what I'm going to do, if I might, can I ask you to say a few words?
My pleasure, Mr. President.
This is Bill Heisinger.
And so this is the first CRA that has been signed by the President, and very pleased to be the author of House Joint Resolution 41. Over 20 years, there's been 56,000 rules that have been put in place with very little legislative input or oversight, and it's time that changed. And I'm very thankful to the President, the Speaker, our Chairman, Henseling, for being able to make this happen, and we think this is a good first step. So very pleased. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good. Let me have that. I'll sign it. We may have to give him the pen. I don't know.
I got one. Someone's going to have to fight for me.
We're not giving it. Pence has gotten too many, right? Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
You've done a fantastic job. All right, a lot of people going back to work now.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Thank you, Matt. Great job, President.
Good.
He's working on Obamacare. It's going to be very soon, right?
Yes. Mark.
Textbook example of why we need to pursue a major infrastructure package in Congress. Dams, bridges, roads, and all ports around the country have fallen into disrepair. In order to prevent the next disaster, we will pursue the President's vision for an overhaul of our nation's crumbling infrastructure. We hope everyone remains safe as the evacuations continue, and we'll be working alongside with FEMA and appropriate government entities to make sure that we are doing everything we can to attend to this matter. The President was honored also to welcome the Prime Minister of Japan last week from their first official meeting at the White House to their joint press conference at Mar-a-Lago, their joint press conference and their time together at Mar-a-Lago. The President and the Prime Minister had a productive visit that reaffirmed their determination to further strengthen the U.S.-Japan alliance and economic relationship. At Mar-a-Lago, the President was proud to stand behind Prime Minister Abe on Saturday to convey the United States' unwavering support for our Japanese allies in the face of North Korea's most recent missile launch. On Sunday, the President met with now Secretary Treasury Mnuchin and Mr. Steve Wynn before returning to Washington. Yesterday, the President had an incredibly productive set of meetings and discussions with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, focusing on our shared commitment to close cooperation in addressing both the challenges facing our two countries and the problems throughout the world. Our countries share a profound economic interest, with more than $2 billion in two-way trade flowing across our border every day. The President was pleased to launch the Canada-United States Council for the Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders by holding a roundtable discussion here at the White House. Together with Prime Minister Trudeau, his daughter Ivanka, the President discussed the unique challenges that women face in the workplace with an incredible group of successful and respected female business executives from both countries. A full list of the participants is available through the pool. In addition to his in-person meetings with Prime Ministers of Japan and Canada, the President also recently had phone calls with the Presidents of Tunisia, Peru, Nigeria, Colombia, and South Africa. Readouts are available on all of those calls. Finally, following the Prime Minister's visit to yesterday, the President met with Chairwoman McDaniel and Co-Chairman Paduchik of the Republican National Committee. In the afternoon, the President participated in a pinning ceremony for Major Ricardo Turner, one of his military aides. The aides to the President are mid-grade officers, one from each of the services. They provide direct support to the President as in his role as Commander-in-Chief, and their primary responsibilities are to serve as an emergency action officer, aide-de-camp, and ceremonial aide. It's a long-standing tradition that one of the President's military aides is promoted to the next higher grade. The President conducts that promotion. Major Ricardo Turner, the President's military aide, was recently promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, and the promotion was held in the Oval Office. The President also spoke yesterday with Maureen Scalia on the one-year anniversary of her husband's passing. The President and Mrs. Scalia discussed her late husband's incredible legacy and how the President is making every effort to carry it on by nominating Judge Gorsuch, who shares the love of the Constitution, to succeed him on the bench. Last night, the President obviously hosted the swearing-in of Secretary Mnuchin in the Oval Office. Secretary Mnuchin is a world-class financier whose decades of experience with financial and monetary matters make him the ideal person to spearhead the President's plan to develop a dynamic, booming economy that works for all Americans. We're glad to officially have him on board. Now moving on to the schedule of today. This morning, the President and newly confirmed Secretary of Education DeVos held a parent-teacher conference meeting with parents and educators from public, private, charter, and homeschools this morning. The President opened the meeting by congratulating Secretary DeVos for its toughness and staying the course throughout her confirmation process. He then discussed his vision for all Americans to have an opportunity to climb the ladder of success, starting with making quality education available to every child, no matter their zip code. Under the current system, the President believes too many of our children are trapped in failing schools, especially in the African-American community. The President told the group to begin addressing this problem, which he views as a civil rights issue. He wants parents to be able to decide what educational options are best for their children. The group launched into a wide-ranging discussion that included public and charter schools, homeschooling, dropout prevention, and the Basis Schools program, states' responsibilities, and the current state of the U.S. Department of Education. The President's ultimate goal is to create safe communities, great schools, and well-paying jobs. He believes that each of these goals is linked to the others, and the Trump administration is taking concrete steps to achieve them all. The President also spoke on the phone earlier today with Prime Minister May of the United Kingdom, continuing the productive conversation they started during her visit earlier this year. A readout on that call should be coming soon. The President then had lunch with New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and his wife regarding combating drug use. At 2 o'clock, the President will sign House Joint Resolution 41 in the Oval Office. The resolution is the start of rolling back harmful Obama-era regulations, which have cost the American businesses and consumers a staggering $890 billion, making our companies less competitive and even driving some of them out of business. The American free enterprise system is the greatest engine for economic prosperity in the world. But for too many to reach its maximum potential, we must remove the barriers to productive